So you have the sense of perfectionism.
Yeah.
So the way you go after goals, and do the words in your mind, could have been better, should have done better.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So let's pick out a particular goal that's important to you. Do you end up procrastinating a lot?
Yeah, around these things sometimes, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So let's pick out a goal just to ground it with something important for you that you'd like to go for, set some goals.
Well, in business, in bringing ideas to clients, for example.
Okay.
In my business, I'm an investment advisor, and it's like I always want to do the best job in my. So I have very high standards.
Okay.
I want to be right, and I want everything to work out for my clients.
Okay. Which perfectly valid.
Yeah.
Because that's what you get paid for, and you want to do the best. Do you have to do the best? Do you have to be right?
Well, yeah, logically and intellectually, no.
But emotionally?
Yeah, emotionally, yes.
Emotionally, you have to be right.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go inside and notice what happens. If you say, I give myself permission to do the best I can, but I don't have to know it all. It doesn't have to be perfect. I don't have to be right. I give myself permission to do the best I can. And what's in the back of the mind when you say that?
Yeah, but
so what's the but?
Is what's going to happen if I'm not? If it doesn't work out?
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it in that tone of voice, or is it?
It's a doubting kind of
Doubting.
tone of voice. Yeah.
Okay. Is there any fear in the voice?
Yeah, there's a little bit of fear feeling that goes along with it.
Okay,
yeah.
So doubt and fear. So what resource would you need so that you can do the best you can and just leave it at that? To handle that doubt, to handle the fear?
Well, just a sense that it's not the end of the world. I mean,
Okay.
I'm just going to go on and
Okay.
try to do better the next time, I guess.
Okay, so if the resource is not the end of the world, I'll do better next time, it's kind of a time thing, thinking maybe longer term.
Yeah.
That one presentation of your selling for your client isn't, that you're going to be seeing them again and again and continuous improvement.
Mm-hmm.
So what if you go in and say, I give myself permission to do the best I can at each moment in time when I do something that's important for me, like selling with my investors. And as I give myself permission to do the best I can, leave it at that, I also know I'm going to be learning, and I'll come back and make further adjustments. How does that settled? Is there any...
Yeah, there's still a little bit of doubt that's going to work. The doubt is about, is this really going to work?
Is it really going to? So what are you doubting? How would that not work?
How would it not work? If I didn't really believe it.
Okay. Do you believe that you have one chance at a sale? That everything is riding on one encounter?
Sometimes you do, actually.
Okay, so sometimes that may be
not
accurate.
always, but sometimes it is accurate.
What percentage of the time would that be accurate?
Yeah, it'd be rare. It would be a very small percentage.
Okay. Are we talking 5%, 10, 1?
It might be like 5% of the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So would it be true that most of the time you're building relationship?
Yes, yeah.
And the relationship is an ongoing kind of a thing?
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
Okay.
If with that kind of person, you normally wouldn't want to spend too much time with them anyway. They're just going to dust you off on one recommendation. Yeah.
When you've had an encounter and you're selling to some investor who gives you one time, does it ever work out to where you make a good sale and it's just that one time event?
Yeah, I've had ones like that worked out.
So every once in a while that will be so.
But those kind of people tend to be somewhat demanding always. I mean, that's just their nature.
Okay. Are those the kind of clients that you want to work with? Is that your target?
No, that's not my target. No.
Okay. Okay. So if you go inside and say, I give myself permission to do the best I can, knowing I'm building relationship, and this is long term, and I can always come back to these people, and if I miss something, I'll pick it up. I'll catch it. How does that feel?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I can go with that. Yeah.
Okay. So as you think about setting goals, preparing yourself to go meet an investor.
Mm-hmm.
Is there still that perfectionism that I have to just do it right? I have to just get every thing in line, every duck in line?
Not right now. I'm not sitting here right now.
Okay.
No. Yeah.
Okay. Let's now take this. Would you say you're beginning to have the eyes of just optimizing, doing the best you can, optimizing your skills, optimizing your relationships, optimizing your ability to learn, to catch, to pick up on things? Are you beginning to have the eyes so that you can see the world in terms of, I'll just do the best I can?
A little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What would you need as a resource, as a belief, as a decision, so that you could try on that frame of mind?
Maybe some examples.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The beginning example would be just using those words. I'll do the best I can, and I'll celebrate every success. I'll honor and recognize everything I do that's moving in the right direction.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Because that's something I haven't done in the past.
Okay.
I judge myself. Okay. Yeah, so you did this, but you could have done that better, or this or that instead. You know.
Okay. Do you have permission to acknowledge and recognize when you do something with some skill, some expertise?
I can give myself permission.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you do that, how does that?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Okay. How do you take compliments? How do you take acknowledgments? How do you take it when somebody says, "You did, boy, that was really good"?
It was nothing. No.
Okay.
Not really. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have permission to receive it? What happens when you give yourself permission to receive it?
That's kind of new. Yeah.
Okay. Does that settle okay?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. How many more times would you need just to repeat that until it really feels like it's settling in and
I don't know. I just have to keep doing it. I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
10 or 20 or something.
Okay. Okay. We'll give you a test this afternoon. I want people. Anybody see him doing anything? Just compliment the hell out of him until he blushes and everything. Until he says, "Give me more."
Yeah, I think that's something I'm going to have to do more and more because it's kind of a new sensation to do that.
So if you took on the frame of mind, I'll do the best I can, I'll optimize, I'll learn, I'll keep growing, I'll keep coming back. I know how to create relationships. I know how to pick up things and detect things, and I'll just keep at it. And I'll acknowledge it. I'll reinforce what I'm doing well and celebrate that as I move into my future. And I'll do this. And you may now just apply that to other contexts, other goals in relationship, in career, in health, whatever area. I'll do the best I can. I'll acknowledge and celebrate what I do well. I'll acknowledge myself. I'll receive acknowledgement. And how does that feel?
Yeah, I like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. There's an executive part of your mind that makes decisions. Will that part, just to experiment with this for a bit, it doesn't mean you have to keep it forever, but will that part take complete and full responsibility to let this become more and more in your neurology, in your behavior, automatic, just the way you operate for the next day or two, just to try it on and And to keep adjusting it so that it's just right for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, think that part of your mind.
Okay.
Okay. And we'll just let it have a chance to take you somewhere new.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So working with frames, comments, questions, changing meta programs.
My observation is what you're doing sometimes is just softening up if you're on one end of the meta program or another, and you're helping them give themselves permission to adjust, not necessarily substituting a new meta program, which is one of your goals. So what do you think the chances are in your practice of substituting a new meta program versus adjusting fluidity between the extremes?
Well, I think of them as the fluidity between the extremes. I think of it as flexibility rather than stop doing this, do this. I think of it as, so how much do you want to do this, in what context, and how much flexibility, so that you have more choice. Because the presupposition in NLP is we add choices, we don't take choices away. Because we believe that people having better choices will always make the better decisions.
I have a sense of the questions you're asking in these little sampling that have you had the experiences, like little pieces of it, one step at a time. It was kind of leading me into it, little one bite at a time or one little step at a time.
Because we don't want to take away, especially a person's expertise and excellence in something. We just want to adjust it, fluidity, to adjust it so that a person can do so and keep it balanced, keep it ecological. And so once again, I think we're tempted mostly at our strengths, not at our weaknesses. And so what we do, caring and having high standards, but then when the standards get so high that it's just so difficult to even get started, that it's just that adjustment. So most meta programs are going to be like that. It's going to be that adjustment. And just as we've had some demonstrations this morning around the subject, when we give ourselves permission to step onto the other side or go somewhere else, at first it just feels it can be very discomfort. And if you can welcome that discomfort, welcome that weirdness, welcome that uncomfortability, that's all it is. It just means you haven't gone there too much, if at all. And now you're giving yourself a chance. So, well, this afternoon, we're going to run the Genius Pattern, because I always like running the Genius Pattern so that you can step into that state and just really totally be fully present to whatever. And we're also going to do the Mind to Muscle. And the Mind to Muscle is a lot of loading this matrix, loading these new programs so that you get it into neurology. And so we'll do the Mind to Muscle and the Genius Pattern this afternoon. And so that's what we'll do after lunch. All of a sudden you get engaged. If it's a good movie, you get engaged. And sometimes 2 hours later, 3 hours later, you look at your watch and you're not quite sure, is it winter or is it summer? Is it night or is it day? And there may be a moment to even get renegotiate where you are in reality. Sometimes I'll say, what country am I in? Trying to get... Because for 2 hours, you've been gone. And you may have had some pain, some wounds in your body. You may have a broken arm. And you may have 2 hours of pain-free experience for a while because you forget the pain. So it's a great state. And it's a state that you do watching a movie or gardening or taking a walk. Sometimes you'll do it and have this experience when you meet a friend that you haven't met for years and you get together and you go out to a restaurant and you start talking and 4 hours go and it seems like 5 minutes because you're so engaged, you're so there, you're so present. So what a state. But you wouldn't want that state all the time. So whatever genius state you want to build today, make sure it's not a state you want to be in all the time, but a state that you'll want to leave and walk away from so you can have a regular life. But when you get in there, when you're there, you are so much there that everything goes away, and that engagement is everything. So that's what we mean by a genius state. Now, I found this pattern, to give credit to John Grinder and Judith DeLozier in their book, Turtles All the Way Down. And I modeled out of that. For a while, I was trying to follow their pattern. And the pattern that you have now in your manuals is a very different pattern. We've metastated the hell out of it. and it's a very different kind of a pattern. Their original pattern, they would do a workshop, and it would take them 3 to 4 days to run this one pattern. So we've really streamlined it to just a few minutes, really. Because they had a lot of things onto it and into it that just wasn't necessary. What's really necessary is, first of all, finding something that engages you, something you care about, something important, something that you're willing to let the world go away and be present. Once you find that, then we're just going to set some frames. We're going to set some frames that allow that to happen, that give us permission to get lost in something. I used to do some gymnastics coaching. I coached gymnastics in Grand Junction for 6 years when my daughter was coming up through gymnastics, and so I worked mostly with the boys, but also worked with the girls' competitive team. And with a boys' team, and working with those boys in gymnastics, the ability to get lost in that engagement, even if the engagement is only 3 minutes, it just amazed me. And some of the girls' competitive teams, some of those little girls would be 13, 14 years old. And normally they were just kind of scatterbrained and just, they were thinking about boys or whatever else. But once they came up there, and I'd see them in the competition, and they'd do their anchor to get ready. And once they did that, they would just explode with jumping and twisting and turning and whatever was in their mind, however they had framed that. And 3 minutes later, they ended. and then they came back to normal. So this is something you can do, something I can do. It is the genius state.
So why do you say it's like watching a movie? Why is it like watching a movie?
Because when you watch the movie, you just get so lost. And it's that lostness that is the key. Where do you get lost? Naturally and normally. Because it is a hypnotic process. So where do you get lost at? So what we're going to do is take control of the process, and as we look at the structure of it, and we're going to set some frames. We're going to set some frames, some meaning frames, so that it allows us to do that. How John Grinder and Judith DeLozier described it is that we set the cage so that we can get in there and kick. Now, they use the word demon. So if you read the book, it's instead of genius states, it's demon state. But in the 3rd century BC in Greek, the Greek word for genius was demon. 3 centuries later, that word became demonic, and it meant negative. But then again, any genius state, if it's out of control, if it has you, will be a demon to you. It'll undermine your powers, and it'll drive you bananas. Which is why Sigmund Freud made this confusion. I think he should be held responsible for confusing genius and madness, because he wrote a lot about that. But I don't think that. So historically there were some geniuses who refused to do any kind of therapy work to get some of the craziness out of their life because they were afraid they would lose their genius. But I think that was just an association he put together. Because if we don't control the genius, engagement, focus, then it has us. And we can become obsessed, compulsive, driven, and so it can become demonic to us. So we're going to set this cage so our genius demon state can get in there and just kick and turn loose. I first ran this pattern with myself in 1995. And in 1995 was the turning point for my writing. Up till then, it took my first book. It took me 8 years to get it written. But worse than that, much worse than that, was I was always suffering writer's block. I just, I get stuck, and then I try harder, which made me get more stuck. And after 1996, when I think I ran it about 3 times, 1996, suddenly, no more writer's block. And I haven't had writer's block since. So today I'm writing usually 3 new books. I'm revising 1 or 2 per year. I'm writing 2 or 3 manuscripts for something. I write about 50 articles a year, so that's 1 a week. I write a lot of posts. I do 2 or 3 prefaces a year. And so I'm just writing a lot, and I just feel like I got all the time in the world to write. I could write twice that much if I didn't go train. It has just turned it loose. So I did the writing workshop a couple of weeks ago out in San Francisco, and Doug was there, and Richard was there, and Stacy was there. I don't know if I'm missing anybody. Scott was there. And I was just talking about the experience of writing, and today I just find it's amazing. I can sit down, and then it's like all the resources are there, and I'm just amazed sometimes what comes. So the genius state is a state that when you step in there, you can be so fully there, you have all your resources available. And that's why the gymnasts or the Olympic level athletes can do such incredible things. My guess is Lance Armstrong somehow could step into that state when he gets on that bike, and just in spite of all the challenges he's had and the cancer and the other things that he's had to put up with, he can step in that state and just make it happen again and again and again. So this is something that if you pick out a state, and I would recommend things like maybe reading. Because if you're ever reading, and then at the end of the page you realize, I looked at all the words, but I don't remember them coming in. And you would like to be present, you might make a genius state of reading. Or being with somebody, being with a client, being with a lover, being with a child, being present to a person. Or being present to when you're doing something. The word interest is real interesting. It's in and est. Est means to exist, to be, in. When you're bored, you have not put yourself into it. But your ability to exist inside of it, to get engaged. So if you're engaged with something, you'll just have a lot more to offer to it. It'll be a much richer experience. So when you're working, when you're exercising, when you're whatever engagement you'd like to do, that would be a genius state. We run this genius pattern for the trainers training, because when you need to be present to a group, you need to be present to the group instead of the mind off somewhere else. So this is the genius state, and without much more explanation, I'm just going to run it. And then we'll debrief it and turn you loose to do it. So, who's ready? The genius state that you'd like to work on, would it be a sitting down genius state? Would it be a standing up?
Sitting down.
So it'd be a sitting down. So I'm going to ask you to stand right here for right now. And what I'm going to do is to let this be the neutral place.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look around the room at just all the colors, the reds, the blues, the yellows, and just kind of observe, because what I want you to do is to find a place where you're just witnessing. So in this state, you're really not engaged with anything, it's just sensory awareness.
Okay.
All right, so you can stare at all the people in there. So what we're going to do is you're going to go in the state, and then you'll come out here, and when you come out, I want you to just be relaxed, loose.
Flop it out a little bit.
Okay. So we'll be doing that. What I'm going to ask you to do is we're going to begin to create a template. Mm-hmm. Where naturally do you get into a genius state, into a state where you're just lost?
You mean, am I sitting or?
No, I mean,
sitting down?
What would be an instance, a place in your life where sometimes you get so engaged with something?
It would be either writing or reading.
Okay.
Reading or writing.
Okay. So sometimes when you're reading, you can just get lost.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so
people can talk and I don't hear anything.
Okay, so you're screening it all out. That has gone away.
The
world's gone away. Yeah. Okay. So think about a time recently or some time when that really happened. And what I'd like you to do is as you turn around and look at that chair, imagine yourself there reading.
Okay.
In that state.
Mm-hmm.
And then step into that state, that place.
Mm-hmm.
So just be back there again, reading, and you might even want to hold a book and pretend you're holding a book. Mm-hmm. And were you sitting back? Were you sitting forward?
I'd be probably sitting like this.
Okay. Okay. So just be there again. And as you go back there, just see what you saw, hear what you were hearing from the words, from yourself, whatever sounds that there were, and feel what you were feeling at that time,
Okay.
so that you can just be there again as fully as possible in this moment. And if you were to gauge from 0 to 10 how much you're there in that place.
7.
Okay, so really a lot. 7. Okay. You've done this. So how did you do this? Take a snapshot of how you're looking, how you're seeing the words in that book. Hear whatever you're hearing, and feel the sensation of your body, your breath, your posture, your muscle tension, your eyes. Just notice how you have put yourself in this state so quickly. Okay. Now I'm going to ask you to interrupt this state, just to stand out and come out here to the neutral place. How much of it did you bring with you?
Not too much.
Okay. So you...
Not much at all.
Okay, not much at all. Excellent. Okay. So from out here, you can edit that genius state. So as you look at you sitting in that chair reading that book, you can edit in so that your picture in your mind of being there can attract you and invite you to step back in there. Okay, so let's step back in there as fully as possible. Okay. The genius state of reading, getting lost in something that's interesting and fascinating to you. And as you're here, just imagine letting the feelings, the experience double. Imagine you were twice as lost. Okay? Because your ability to recover this and to reclaim this will help us to build a new one.
Okay.
Okay? And let's interrupt it again. And this time, take your time so that you can really snapshot this. Snapshot it visually, auditorily, kinesthetically. And when you're ready, when you can leave it completely there, then let's just step out of it. Okay. And how was that?
Good.
Okay.
I'm out of it.
So my guess is this is a state you're familiar with.
All the time.
You're there all the time. So stepping in and out, you've practiced this already.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
For the sake of developing this even further, let's imagine a sphere. So that's a whole new dimension. And kind of like Stargate, when you go through the Stargate on TV and you enter into that other dimension. Let's just make this a sphere so that there's a real clear sense of boundaries when you're out of it and when you're in it.
Okay.
And this time, as you go in it, just kind of go through that Stargate into that dimension of the reading genius.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So as you enjoy that, as you enjoy the experience of it, let another part of your mind, a part of your mind that makes decisions, just kind of step back to be aware of the state. And I'm going to ask a series of questions. And you don't have to answer any of these out loud, just know inside. And when I ask these questions, you'll become aware of the boundaries, what's inside, what's outside. And so the first question for this part of your mind that makes decisions, that supports you in when to have this, when to have this state, when not to have this state, where to have this state. Where would be some great places to have this state? And you may have a menu of where to have this, and where not. I wouldn't want to do it when I'm crossing a street. So where not? I wouldn't want to do it when I'm changing a baby's diaper. But where to? Where to have the state and when to have it? With whom to have it? Would you ever have the state with someone? Okay, so with whom?
My wife.
Okay. And there might be some others with whom. With whom would you never invite them into this dimension with you? With whom would you not have this state? Okay.
Got some people.
Okay. How to have the state? You've been looking at how do I do this? How do I let the world go away? How do I do this? How do I get so focused? How do I do it? What are the qualities and the properties of doing it that makes it even better? So my guess is a relaxed breath is part of how to do it.
Yeah.
How not to do it. Probably hyperventilating would be not one how not to. So as you go through a menu, how to do this, how to really do this, how to make it even more refined, more exquisite, how to do it, and how not. The context in which this is important, and in this case it may be professionally, personally, spiritually, there may be several contexts in which to do this, and some contexts that you wouldn't want to be here, like when you're socializing, things like that.
It's usually professional.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That part of your mind, let it float up to your intention. Why to do this? Why do this? Why is this important? What do you get out of it? And when you get that, why is that important? And why is that important? And all the way up. Why to do? What are all the things you get? What are your motives? What's your agendas? How does it enrich you?
Am I answering?
No, just
Okay.
inside.
All right.
Why to do it? And there may be some whys on the outside, why you wouldn't do it. Some motives that would be inferior, inadequate motives that you wouldn't do it for that reason. But why to do it? What are some resources that you can add to this that make it even richer? And you may know now, or you may just set that as a question, resources. What resources would make this even better? How long to do this? How long? And how long not? What would be too much time, or too little, if that's possible? So how long to do this? The length of time? What interruptions out there would you give permission to interrupt you? What would be some emergencies that would be legitimate and valid to not screen that out, but to let that arouse you and interrupt you to step out? What things would be legitimate emergencies, interruptions, and what would not? What would be worth ignoring and just not paying attention to? It could be certain sounds, certain things that's going on, what not to. The part of your mind that makes decisions, the part of your mind, that executive part that creates programs and just runs this, so you don't have to fool with it, you don't have to worry about it. That part of your mind, is it willing to take complete and full responsibility just to run this so that you don't have to?
Absolutely.
Okay, you're fully aligned with that, know that absolutely, no objections at all?
No.
Okay. Think that part of your mind. And then snapshot it again as you float down into the experience itself, the genius state of engagement, noticing it, noticing that you created it, it's yours. And then let's step out of it. Okay. So what we're doing so far is finding a template. And we do this for a couple of reasons. One thing is to give you a sense of conviction. I know how to do this.
Right.
This is pretty simple. And over the years, you've developed it, and you've practiced stepping in and stepping out. And probably when you first really got lost in a book, if you got interrupted, it was really irritating. But now, you can somehow I'll get back here.
Yeah, can't interrupt me now.
Okay. And so now stepping in and stepping out is easy. You can probably turn it on like that.
Right.
And so just knowing that inside gives a sense of self-assurance. And so I like going through a template, someplace that already you get lost. It's a self-convincer. A form. So we looked at the form, when to do it, where to do it, how not to do it, the template. So we looked at his frames that allowed him just to get in there and the world to go away, time to go away. Because we're going to use the same form, the same template for building a new one. What genius state would you like to build?
You mean another one? Probably producing more product, just simply deciding, I'm going to go ahead and do this, start it, and just get it done.
Okay. So that sounds like a state of engagement in a Creativity?
Yes. No, I can create it.
Okay.
It's
not the creating.
it's getting myself to go ahead and actually do it.
Okay.
Okay? Set the time, go ahead and get it done.
So it's the production.
And make it regular. Right.
Okay. So you've already done the creating.
Production.
The production.
I know what to do. You know?
When you tend to get to the stage of producing now, is it easy to get interrupted or not to stay engaged?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Is that a sitting down state? Are you usually sitting down to do that?
You're sitting down.
Okay.
Yep.
Is it similar to reading, or would it be different enough that you'd want a different kind of a place?
It would probably be similar to reading, but I wouldn't be in the same posture.
Okay.
It'd be a different posture.
So let's use the other chair for it then.
Okay.
So what I'd like you to do, once again, before you go there, I'd like you kind of out here to imagine yourself in the most productive, effective, producing state. And when you have kind of an idea of it, and maybe you might think about a time when I was really, somehow I got into a place and I really was producing.
Okay.
Then step into that place.
Okay.
Okay, so where are you?
I'd probably be sitting, watching a TV screen,
Okay.
editing something,
Okay.
a movie or
So what kind of
a video.
production, just so I have a sense
see
of
video, DVD, something like that.
Okay, so that's why you're doing that.
I'd be watching. I'd have to be writing, organizing, you know, the scenes and the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I want you to do is just put yourself there,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't need to know the details.
Okay.
And just be there. See what you see when you're there. Hear what you hear when you're there. And as you put your body into that position, being there in the most resourceful kind of posture, breathing, the physiology of excellence. So as you go there, whatever that means to you in terms of being there, how much do you have that productive state?
That's where I'm at right now.
Okay. And if you were to gauge that?
7 probably.
7. Okay. So a state of production,
Mm-hmm.
doing stuff and staying focused. Okay. So as you go there, just notice the pictures that you're making, how you use your eyes, how you use your ears, the things you're saying to yourself, the posture, the breathing, the physiology, and once again, just let that expand, let that get stronger and stronger. Let's put that inside of a bubble so that you're in this dimension, this sphere of excellence. And in this energy field, all your engagement is with that engagement. All your energy, mental and emotional, is with that engagement. Okay? So noticing that, taking that snapshot, and now let's interrupt it and step out as quickly as you can. Okay?
Okay.
So how cleanly did you step out?
Pretty good.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that's unusual. Most of us, because it's such a great state, we take it with us. And sometimes we do heavy gravity. You know, so that's great that you're interrupting that pretty cleanly. Okay, so let's step right back in.
Okay.
So be there again, seeing what you see, hearing what you hear. And because you are cleanly there and you made that clean state shift, we'll just go ahead to that executive part of your mind. So while you're there at one level, seeing and hearing and feeling, being there producing, the production state, the other part of your mind, the part of your mind that makes decisions, when should you do this?
You mean what time of the day, or?
No, just and inside, just answer the question.
Okay.
When is it?
Okay.
When should you be in this productive state? And it might be particular times of the day, or it might be in and out. When would you not? When is the time to leave this, step aside, and just let it be there, ready for you whenever you want it? Where do you do this at? Where would you never do this at? Where would you not be appropriate? And so you step out of it. How do you do this? What are some of the best ways that support you in doing this? How do you do this? What are all the things that you bring to it? How do you do it? What would be some ways of doing it that would be ineffective, that you wouldn't want to do it that way? That'd be on the outside.
Okay.
What are some of the resources that you bring to this that supports this in that how? What would be some resources that would be good for something else and not for this? Okay. Would there ever be somebody involved with you when you're in this production state? So who would you do it with? Who would you allow in to collaborate with, to be a partner with? And who would you keep on the outside? Who would you not do this with? How long would you do this at a time? What would be a good time frame for taking a break, relaxing the mind and the activities? So how long to do it? Why to do this? Why is this important? Why is this significant? And when you identify those whys, what do you get from it? Why is that important? And all the way up. Why to do this? The things that motivate, the things that drive, the agendas. And why not? What would be some inadequate reasons you wouldn't do it for those reasons? Why to do it? What context would this be really valuable for? What would be the context that you give yourself permission, in these contexts this is really valuable, and what context not so? Okay. What would be some things that you would want to be interrupted from this, so that you'd take a snapshot, step out, take care of something, step back in? What would be some interruptions that are okay, some emergencies that you would be willing to let it interrupt you? And what would be some things that you would not let it interrupt you? It would be on the outside, it'd just go on, screen it out. Okay. And there may be some other things in the back of your mind, the part of your mind that's outside of awareness. There may be some other things that could make this richer, make this better, take it to the next level. And you may know them now, you may know them consciously or not. Because in the days and the weeks to come, as you keep practicing this and stepping into it, that part of your mind that makes decisions can be on the search, scanning for other ways, other things that will make this even better. Will that part of your mind now take complete responsibility to do these things so that you don't have to worry about them? You don't have to be conscious of them. Okay, fully aligned. Okay, think that part of your mind and flow back down into this state of producing and being productive and the productions that you do. And as you take a snapshot, then when you're ready, at rate and speed just right for you, step out of that. Okay. So how's that?
Good. Kind of like the other one.
Okay.
Kind of felt like this one.
Okay.
You know? Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, give him a hand. Thank you.
Tell you what.
Dick moved really, really quick through that. I think that was one of the fastest processes along this line. The quicker your mind, the quicker you do things, you can really zoom right through this. For most of you, it'll take a little bit longer. You have to make some of those decisions. But you can see the basic format, both times, the template and the new one, is the same structure. And the first one is for self-convincing. And that's the interesting thing about this pattern. Once you run this pattern on several things, and I would recommend it run on several things, you'll get the sense that I can always get back. And when you know that, then being interrupted is easy. When you fear, and that's the problem, when you're in a great state, and it's a wonderful state, and then somebody's knocking on the door, someone's ringing the bell, someone's wanting your attention, and you're in this great state, we tend to take it with us. But what happens is that this gets contaminated, and as it gets contaminated, then it disperses. So then when I come back, sometimes it's like, where was I? So what we're doing is doing an impeccable state shift so that we step out cleanly, sometimes even shake it off. Now some of you, as you step out, it'll be like slow gravity. trying to get away from it. Because there'll be some parts of you that don't want to get away from it. But as you do that again and again, so sometimes I'll have the person step in and out 8 times, 10 times. I've done some people 20 times. I'll ask the question, how much did you bring it with you? And most of the time people will say 20%, 15%, sometimes 30%. So we'll just keep doing it until they can step out cleanly. Because that'll be a key to leave it intact. So that when you're ready to step back in, when you step in, you're there. Any questions on how to do it?
Have you ever run into someone who just said they've never experienced this and they have no idea?
No. Because you can always start with the movie theater. So I've often had people, well, go to the movies. You got a favorite movie? Let's go. So I have just never had anybody, because if you ask the question, where do you get lost? If you ever get lost, does anybody ever go, hey, calling Earth, Earth to, we all get lost. And so it's just a question of finding a good example of that.
Talk about interruptions. I know I've done this before, and I was doing such a good job of coming out of it and giving my attention to my wife. She just kept interrupting. So I finally just had to scrap the other. Because you
get my genius. With the genius state, and like writing for as an example, I'll step in and write for 1 minute. I'll step back out. When I step back in, I'm just there again. I'm often surprised. The phone will ring in my office, and so I'll take my snapshot of where I am, answer it on the second or third ring, talk to them. I might be on the phone for an hour or two. I'll come back, and if I'm mid-sentence, I just pick up. Because you have left it, if you have left it intact cleanly, then it's available. Because you've anchored it, and then there's no loss of that attention, of that energy. So this allows us to be much more efficient in time. So some people say, well, I don't have an hour to write. Well, I'll write 5-minute units, 7 minutes here, and so because I can just step right back in. Same thing with a book, reading a book. If I hear something and it's not an emergency interruption, I just take a moment, kind of notice where I am, notice my state. I'll step out, deal with whatever that interruption is, and step right back in. And then I don't have to reread, where was I and what was this talking about.
I use a paper clip on my book. The wide side goes on the side of the page that I want, and it points to that level. Close the book, interrupt me, and I come back, flip it open right to
so you've done it. Okay.
You always physically get up?
Not always, no.
Sometimes if I'm reading or studying something, I might have 3 books open doing research.
Okay.
And I get interrupted. I think, where am I going to put all this stuff?
Okay.
So what do you do then?
Well, if you make enough difference, now you may want to make enough difference in your physiology so that when you move to your next engagement, if someone has come in and you're going to talk to them, you may want to move around your physiology so you're in a different physiology.
So it is important to change it.
Change it somehow so there's a difference. Because when there's not a difference and things start merging, and that's how and when we can create amnesia. So have you ever been interrupted? Someone interrupted you, and then you came back and it's like, where was I? And you got a case of amnesia, actually. We forget. So that's where marking it and using your physiology and a set of physiologies for that distinction. So that's why it's really obvious in sports. So sports is such a great example. There's a set of physiologies to whatever the sporting event is. And so stepping into that physiology. Well, the same thing is true for other kinds of engagements. So what we do in our meta coaching, we really teach our coaches to use the physiology of rapport. And of course that means if I'm going to get in rapport, I'm going to do something that's going to be similar enough. I'm going to use my breathing. I'm going to watch for breathing. I'm going to do all that rapport matching and mirroring. Plus also, I'm going to be very engaged. I'm not going to be sitting back, overly relaxed, there's going to be a physiology to the, because I'm engaged. So it's an energy state of some sort.
Aren't you also modeling, you're modeling one particular state into another one?
You can certainly do that with this. You can certainly do that with this.
Do you tell people, I'm going to step into my genius state now?
Wait a minute. I need my genius for diffusing hotheads. No, I've never done that one.
I mean, what do you have for the name?
Concentrate.
So your term for whatever the state is, you may want to anchor it with a term, whatever that engagement state is, that focus state is, or I don't do that, so I'm trying to think what I do with it. I guess I use my physiology more than anything else, and so my physiology knows. That way, I don't have to worry about this.
This isn't just a one-time installation. You mentioned doing it 3 times way back when.
Yeah.
Have you done it since that time, or have you really honed in into your?
Okay, good question. When I first ran it on myself, I just had bits and pieces of it. At that time, I was working a lot with Bob Bodenhammer, so I would go to training, and when we did the extra, I'd say, Bob, do me, and then I'll do you. And so I had several people run it on me. I think by the 3rd time I did it, it took. But then I've repeated it again and again and again on a number of things. And like every other pattern, once you run it so many times, it becomes a template for your mind. So I think I've designated out about 10 different genius states. So this year, I went back to Geneva and to Avalon and some other places, and I did Living Genius training. And people were coming who had done Accessing Personal Genius 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and coming back, how many genius states have you made? Well, some said, I can make more than one. Yes, you make more than one, don't have to pay for it. But some had made 8 or 10 or 12, and the people who had made more, now it was so easy for them, so natural for them, they were really skilled at it. The ones who had not, it was like they were going through it almost for the first time again.
And that could kind of be an assessment of, let's say, for example, I install one today, and then 3 years from now, I'm really much better at honing in on this focus and then flow, and so I'd like to install it at a higher or more intense level. That would be a good time to do it and acquire a higher.
So we're going to give you a half hour each. We're going to do in partners, and this is where you may need some help. So Scott and Stacy myself will be around if you need any help stepping in, stepping out. If it's a sitting down state, use chairs. If it's standing up, if you're doing presentation or something, then use standing up to get your whole physiology into it. And really the patterns, we'll just sequentially walk through the pattern there on your page. And so 1 hour from now, we'll come back here.